What do you have to say about the cultural shock faced by students, especially the Indians?
That's a pretty important and pertinent point, because I think one of the biggest challenges a student has to overcome is to overcome that culture shock as we know it. And I think some of them take it very well in their stride. Some of them struggle with it but come out of it, and some of them actually end up with a reasonably bad situation. And in the last 5 years, we've had instances of 2 students coming back to India after they went to New Zealand because they just couldn't cope with the culture shock. But I think one needs to be prepared for it. It's not going to be easy. The place looks different. It smells different, frankly speaking. Even the smells would be different. The people look different. They eat differently. They talk differently. Lots of things are not what you're used to. So I think it's important that people get into that acclimatization as quickly as they can. However much you try to acclimatize while you're still in India, it's never going to be the same. But I think it's important to have a good set of friends in the initial days who will help you to ease through that. And that's why we at Array, we also try and give them a list of people who are already in New Zealand, so that there is some kind of familiarity after the land. But I think yes, the culture shock is something that prospective students need to watch out for. Yes.
Do the universities in New Zealand have any dress code?
No, not even the way you address your lecturers. I mean, New Zealand is probably one of the most informal countries that you can ever come across. When I was living in New Zealand, on at least 2 occasions, I saw the Prime Minister of New Zealand shopping in a mall like anybody else. So she was pushing a cart around, and people would walk up to her and say, "Hello, Helen." Her name was Helen Clark, the previous Prime Minister, and she would just wave back and say, "Hi, how are you?" No security, nothing. She would drive her own car. Once the policeman stopped her because she was driving fast, and he realized it was the Prime Minister, and he wished her and said, "But sorry, you were going over the speed limit," and gave her the challan, so she had to pay it. So it's a highly informal country. The dress codes are quite relaxed. Interacting with your lecturers is quite relaxed. You can address them by their first name, so you don't have to bow down and say, "Your almighty professor," all those kinds of things. It's quite an informal country. Yeah.
What is SOP and what do you think it should contain?
Okay, the SOP stands for Statement of Purpose, and it is required to be submitted by a student on 2 different occasions. This going abroad process consists of 2 different things. One is getting an admission into a good institution overseas, and then getting the visa to be able to pursue that studies in that country. So really it is 2 different steps which comes in. So when you're applying for an institution, you need to provide a statement of purpose which says why you're opting for that particular course, what are the subjects that you are opting for, why is it that you think this course will help you in your career development, how you relate that course to your past academic or work experience. So that's what the statement of. The second time you need to give a statement of purposes when you're applying for your visa. You need to explain to the visa officer, again pretty much the same things as to why you're choosing that course. But some countries have this rather stupid policy of saying that after completing studies, a student has to come back. So at that time in the statement of purpose, you need to write things like why you will come back to India. Thankfully for New Zealand, none of that exists. You can be very clear in your statement of purpose when applying for the visa and state that I'm going to complete my course successfully, I'm going to study well, and after completing the course, there is a guaranteed 1-year work permit being given by the government of New Zealand. So you can write and say, I will complete my course, I'll take my 1-year work permit, I'll find a job and apply for my permanent residency and stay on in New Zealand. So absolutely no issues about that. Talking about the statement of purpose, one thing I would like to share with our Indian students perspective is most of them tend to copy paste the statement of purpose, which is not correct according to me. They just tend to take it from their friend who's gone abroad before, or they just tend to change the name and put it down there in the subject. I don't think it's the right way of approaching a statement of purpose, because it's not a generic statement of purpose. It's meant to be your statement of purpose. So I'd advise students who are planning to go abroad to put in that sincere effort and write a statement of purpose which is their own, even if it is just 10 sentences. It doesn't have to be a long essay, but I think it's important to write their own essay.